United Nations that inadequate funding of climate change actions is a major impediment in climate conservation. The head of state says there is a need for various stakeholders to reevaluate and maximize sources of funds towards climate change mitigation efforts. He has also advocated for Africa as a continent to be placed at the center of climate change dialogue owing to its wealth and renewable and green energy, and Retende with more.
During a panel discussion on climate change mitigation efforts and emerging challenges, President William Ruto has decried inadequate funding of climate change actions as a big challenge in achieving the desired conservation outcome. President Ruto calling for the world to re-evaluate sources of funding with a view to doubling efforts of reversing the negative effects of climate change.
How do we unlock the resources that have been committed? Whether it is in loss and damage, and I'm very happy that we've made progress in the last few days, thanks to UAE and other partners. How do we then look at the international financial architecture? How do we empower World Bank? How do we empower the IMF to do more concessional funding? How do we reorganize their governance?
He insists the United Nations leadership on climate change must place Africa at the center of dialogue on mitigating climate change, calling for improved funding of the continent.
The Africa Climate Summit brought African leaders together. And for a very long time, Africa has been in the corner of problems. We're trying to move Africa from being in the corner of problems to the corner of solutions. And we stated very clearly that we have ideas, we have suggestions, we believe Africa has the greatest stake in contributing to the solution around climate change.
President Ruto's sentiments were echoed by other panelists who called for inclusivity in decision and funding model.
Our current architecture is no more adapted to our challenges. We need much more money. We need a better articulation between public and private. But we do need much more inclusiveness. A lot of countries today didn't exist where these institutions were created. They have no voice.
Developing countries pay 5 times more to borrow on private capital markets. Investment in renewables is growing at an extraordinary pace, but right now I think less than 2% of that is going into Africa. Yep. And President Ruto has argued previously, others have, that situation is completely indefensible.
The Cop28 summit entered its third day today, with leaders calling for stakeholders to pump more money into the climate mitigation actions. Henry Tendanyula, Look Up TV.